Why should you be excited for Grey Zone Warfare's next update? Let's be honest, Night Ops was cool with the addition of the day-night cycle, but it didn't fundamentally change the actual game all that much. With Winds of War, however, which is the 0.3 update, the more I see, the more interested I am getting. You could argue that it's almost a different game in many ways. Let's jump right in and discuss the highest impact parts of this update first, starting with the COP system. So the COP system is the biggest new change that's coming to 0.3 Winds of War, and this stands for Combat Outpost. And what it is effectively, if you think of the Grey Zone Warfare map as it is originally, you have the three main bases for the three different factions in each corner of a triangle on the map, and then you've got the LZs where you can fly helicopters too. The map now includes these combat outposts that are scattered all over the place. There's about 36 of them in total. When I looked at the map based on the teaser or reveal that we were looking at the other night with some creators playing it, there were 27 small ones and 9 big ones labelled on there. These are distributed amongst the existing LZs, and what this allows you to do is go to one of these COPs and go in and presumably it looks like tap on the laptop and capture it for your faction. What this means is then other players from your faction can then spawn on that COP, meaning that you don't need to fly from the main base with the helicopter every single time you want to go do something. But not only can you spawn there, you also get access to traders and your stash at the COP as well, and this really is going to decrease the amount of back and forth that is required in this game. The smaller COP points are really just a few walls or barricades, that kind of thing. They're not that easy to defend, but they're easy to attack and take over as well. And once you do take over one of these things, you get some AI controlled units, a bit like in your main faction HQ, to patrol and at least give some resistance to the enemy team. Big COPs, on the other hand, are in specific locations that are a bit harder to assault, such as on top of a mountain, and there's a new trader that is coming to the game called Vulture, who acts a little bit like Fence in EFT, and he's going to be spawning at 2 of these big COPs randomly. And what he does is he is selling despawned gear. So if there's a big battle and a load of players' bodies have despawned with their various gear on them, Vulture's guys will go and collect it all up, and then he'll be selling it at these COP points. This means that capturing and holding these outposts is actually going to be really quite important. The more of the big outposts that you have, the more chance you are of actually bumping into Vulture. And it wasn't said explicitly on the stream by the devs, but the implication was that it probably would be cheaper than it would be on the traders. I don't know by how much, but probably quite a lot. So this COP system is already a huge game changer for the way that Grey Zone is going to play out. It's no longer the case that you literally just wander around doing your quests and then bump into other PMCs, as is kind of the case in Tarkov. Your faction and where you go and the amount of land that you control is actually important now, because some quests are going to be easy to complete if you've got a COP nearby, and it also allows you to respawn and gear back up at those points. So this is already a huge game changer. But now, if there's a fight between PMCs, we have another huge feature to this game, which is called the PMC conflict zone. So when 2 players fight, you now get a PMC conflict zone that appears on the map. So if you're just joining a server and you open up the map, you can see where the fighting has recently occurred. Basically what's going to happen is that if a PMC even just gets suppressed by another PMC, that doesn't need to be actual shots, so they said on the stream the other day, this will then make a PMC conflict zone circle appear on the map. It'll be between the defender and the attacker, so if you're sniping it won't give away your position, but it gives people a rough idea of where the action is on the map. This, combined with the fact that your faction announcer will announce if one of your COPs is under attack, kind of gives something for people to actually go and do in the world. It ends up being more of a capture battle rather than just a questing simulator like it has been in the past. Between the COP system and the PMC conflict zone system, there is now a whole new game loop around what to do. It's not just going to quest, obviously you need to do that to get your levels up, but if you want to go and fight and potentially pick up other people's gear, or just go and capture outposts on your own, you can go and do that instead of doing the main quest lines in the game itself. Or maybe you want to capture a COP before you go and do a quest in a particular location, because if you die, it means that you can spawn right back there without having to use the helicopter. This was one of the big criticisms of the earlier versions of Grey Zone Warfare, right up until the Night Ops one that was still playing right now prior to the release of Winds of War. And so the team have looked a lot at how to reduce the helicopters. This COP system is one of them, and another is the ability to manage quests away from the main base. So if you go out to a location, you'll be able to manage your quests out in the field, so you can accept another quest and hand in certain quests as well. Some of them you're going to have to take an item back to the main base. We're going to have to see exactly how this gets implemented, but what they've said is that a lot of these quests you're going to be able to pick up the next one while you're out in the field, and so you can kind of be hopping from LZ to LZ and COP to COP to restock yourself without having to go back to the main base all the time. Alongside this, some of the old gripes, and gripes that actually are across the entire extraction shooter and looter shooter genre, are things about quests sharing between teammates. So for example, if you've got a team of 4 and you all need to kill Killer, you all need to go in and kill Killer separately. That was exactly the same for Grey Zone, because there was one boss early on in the marketplace in the starter town, and everybody had to go in and kill him, and it was basically a case of waiting for this guy to spawn, and you had to go back to base, then come back, then wait for him to spawn again, so that all of your squad could do it. Now your squad shares progression with the rest of the members, so if you're in a team of 4, which is the full squad size in Grey Zone, then you go in and you all have that quest, and only one of you needs to kill him. Everybody else will get credit for that. This combines with the new friendly armbands that are on there. I know that the team at Madfinger were thinking about lots of different ways to make target identification a little bit easier, so now we have friendly armbands on teammates. Enemies don't have any armbands on at all, so you're basically just looking for an armband, and that means that someone is on your side. Also, getting your buddies out of harm's way is also going to be easier now. We will now be able to drag bodies. We were always able to heal other players right from the word go, but now you can drag your teammates out of fire, especially if they've fallen down into a coma or something like that. You can pull them back into the foliage, and then you can start administering medical aid on them while your other teammates support you. Another prior gripe, and one of the biggest problems that sort of hangs over the whole of Grey Zone, is on performance. On the latest dev update, Mara said that they are going to be having all of the latest NVIDIA tech in there, so I assume that that means that the new transformer models are going to be activated as part of DLSS 4. These are the same ones that we've seen in Tarkov, Preset K, and all of that stuff, which are more efficient if you have a higher end card that can use DLSS. He wasn't quite sure about FSR 4, but it probably will come at some point. They also are experimenting with new graphics settings. They didn't want to call it potato mode, but basically some lower settings that are actually impactful and change your FPS. So we're going to see how that gets implemented too, because I know a lot of people struggle to run Grey Zone Warfare on their existing systems, and it's probably one of the biggest hampering points about this game. So keep an eye out on that in the next iteration. When Winds of War 0.3 does come, there will be a wipe, but what they have done is streamline the starter town. This is something that I get a little bit concerned with something like Grey Zone, where you don't necessarily want to spend 20, 30, 50 hours every single wipe going back through all of the progression again. That's fine in a game like Tarkov, where we're expecting to be playing for a couple of hundred hours each time and there's enough content for it, but with Grey Zone, because it's very experimental and still very early in its development cycle, you don't necessarily want to have to go through all of that again to get to the endgame stuff to test it out. So on one of the recent devcasts that they did, they've said that they've streamlined the starter town down from taking approximately 5 hours down to about 2 now, so veterans can whiz through whilst it still teaches new players the basics of the game. Another old criticism of Grey Zone Warfare was that outside of the LZs and some of the actual POIs, there wasn't that much interesting stuff going on the map. There wasn't really any reason to explore because there wasn't anything around. For this next update then, there are now 60 new POIs around the map. These are going to be of various types and they're all going to be unique and different. This is really going to enhance the COP system as well, because it means the world is just going to be full of so many more interesting things. I'll show they've got a graphic, which I'm going to put up on screen, which is going to show some of the areas that they've transformed to make them more interesting. So all of these changes to the gameplay loop are really, really important, and that's why I wanted to put them first, but there are some other changes too that we'd be remiss if we didn't go through, such as some new guns, armor, and changes to the ballistic system as well. The new weapons that we're looking forward to in Winds of War are the SVD, the M9 pistol, the M9A1, the MP7, and the MCX, so some pretty cool weapons coming in this update. We saw a couple of the guys using it on the stream the other night, and they look pretty fun. They've also got an update to the ballistics, so a weapon like the MP7, which previously was just making pencil-shaped bullet holes, now has tumbling involved in the calculation, which means that they do slightly more damage, despite being a small and efficient round. You can see this demonstrated on the dev's graphics here as well. Alongside this, there is a new critical body part, which is the guts, which means that you're actually able to take down players quite effectively, hitting them in the stomach, whereas previously they were super bullet spongy because it was all about blood loss before. And this is important because there are 2 new plate carriers as well, not NIJ4, which is one of the highest armors, but NIJ3++, so they said. It's called the Plate 6 and the Phantom 2. And typically in Grey Zone Warfare, these things protect the upper half of your body. So if you can't penetrate through those armors, you can now shoot them in the stomach where the armor won't protect. And now that there is actually an organ there, you will be able to take down players and AI much more easily with those lower half body shots. One feature that looks really fun is the ability to add these kind of air tags to your weapons and gear, so that if an enemy player picks up one of your guns, you can continue to track them for a while so that you know where they are. If they don't notice that you've got one of these tags on the weapons, then they're giving away their location to you because you've basically just got them on GPS the whole time until they dump the gun or the time expires. The weapon repair system is being enhanced a little bit. There's instant repair kits that you can use, which have efficiencies ranging from 70 to 90%, it seems, depending on the quality of that repair kit, or you can have a better repair, which you can send off to the trader, but it's going to take time. So if you've got your best gun and it's down to a certain durability, you can hand that to the trader and fix it, but it means that you won't be able to use it for the time being. You will be able to cancel it, you won't get the money back. So you've got to think carefully about which ones you want to just quickly fix up, whether you can buy them again, or whether you've got a really good gun that you actually just can't get anywhere except out in the field, and you want to leave with the trader for a while and forgo using it for the time being, or maybe you're finished for the night so that you can repair it back up to full and use it for a bit longer. Speaking of the traders, there are now 4 levels to the traders rather than just 3, which has allowed the team to spread out the attachments a little bit further across the progression, so you don't just get to level 2 and feel like you have all of the things that you need. And also there are mortars in the game. We saw these the other night. Apparently the team gave them loads of money and loads of mortars, so you're not expecting to see as many as we saw over on that cast the other day, because that would really be quite insane. But they are very powerful, and they're going to be a tool that you can utilize to capture the COP points. Because they've got enemy AI on there, you might want to clear them out with a mortar first before you go in. This will allow for bigger operations of 2 or 3 squads to go in, bring in mortar support first, and then storm the place so you can go and capture it for yourself. In terms of scopes and optics, they've also increased the quality of the smooth zoom. This is now much better than it was before, and this also has some interesting ramifications for the dynamic weather in terms of optics. They've put a lot of work into making the world realistic, and now that dynamic weather is coming to the game, this affects scopes as well. You'll get water droplets on the glass and also misting up depending on the exact environment, which is going to make using different weapons better or worse in different situations. There is now dynamic rain, there is different sounds depending on the weather at the time, and this is going to be really awesome because AI are also going to react to the weather as well. If it's overcast, it's cloudy and it's pouring down with rain, then you're going to be able to sneak into enemy positions much more easily than you could before when Le Mans was basically just sunshine and bright skies all of the time. This changes the sound effect as well, so if you remember and played the early iterations of Greyzone Warfare, you'll know that it was basically all just frogs and mosquitoes right in your ear all the time. Apparently that is not the case anymore. The sounds that you hear depend on the weather that you're seeing right now, and also a few other factors, whether there's gunfire or not. The nature will get louder or quieter, that kind of thing. So there's a whole load of variety that's coming to the game now that wasn't there previously, and kind of made Greyzone a little bit samey all the time because it really was just not fleshed out yet. You've also got to remember that we have the full day-night cycle from Night Ops that a lot of us haven't really played. Some people peek their head in to go and check it out, but with Winds of War, a lot of people are going to be getting 2 updates in one, because many people didn't come back to check it out when Night Ops was released because the core gameplay loop wasn't any different. Between the dynamic weather and the day-night cycle and the improvements to AI based on both of these features, this is actually a huge change to the way that the game works. They've also been working a lot on making the AI more responsive to gunfire. So when you hit an AI, it actually looks like you shot them rather than just kind of standing there and then laser beaming you in the head. So hopefully this will make the player feedback feel a lot better as well when going into these positions. As I alluded to earlier, I watched the stream basically previewing 0.3 the other night that they had on Twitch with Nice Guy and Clean and a few others that were playing the game, and it kind of reminded me of a few gripes that the community had had with Greyzone Warfare that have since been fixed. First one being infill camping. You do have 5 seconds of invulnerability once you leave the helicopter now, so you can't just kill somebody straight away. You're still probably in a big disadvantageous position, but you can't just get instantly shot out of the chopper anymore. The second one was about the helicopter noise and how loud it is. The helicopter sounds was also a very big gripe at one point in the game, and I was reminded by watching the stream also that you can now turn active headsets on and off as you fly around in the chopper, which means that you're not just having the sound of a helicopter in your ears all the time anymore. From the actual stream itself, based on the update, it did seem like the radio chatter from the faction kind of AI controlled radio channel was just too loud. It's partly because they were using lots of mortars and an unrealistic number of mortars, but there did seem to be too much comms. The second thing was when they started playing at nighttime, armband visibility went to approximately 0. I'm not sure if that was really the intention. Maybe they need to have IR strips or something on the clothing so that you can see the armbands even with MVGs, because although that might be realistic, it's just not really very good for gameplay. It means very difficult to play at night. I'm really looking forward to Winds of War. From what I've seen so far and watching the stream the other day, it was absolutely pure chaos. Greyzone Warfare basically sits in this gap between a big open world game like DayZ and a small instance raid-based game like Tarkov. Because the maps aren't permanent, but they are permanent for the entire game session that you play, it means that they don't need to solve problems like what if one side is overtaking the other, because everything resets at the end of the play session. On the flip side, you can be in game for quite a few hours and tell a full story from start to finish, which is something that other games just don't have the structure for. There's an early access preview of the Winds of War update for select content creators from the 17th, and I'm very fortunate to be one of those. So I'm going to be streaming the game starting at the weekend and over those days to get access to what's new and see what's up. So come check out the Twitch channel when I'm going to be back on the 17th and we can explore it together. Because of its structure, I still do think that Greyzone is one of the genre's games with the highest future potential, but it's also one that is going to take the most time to make. It's a considerable time in development, but in a few years, this game could be truly fantastic. So come stop by on the 17th on the stream where I'll be showcasing the update. A big shout out to all my patrons, and as always, have fun in your raids.